Tonight, an unsettling Wall Street sell-off. Trump's tariffs spark a major market meltdown. Taking stock of growing recession fears.
There is a period of transition.
What the dramatic drop means for a ramped-up trade war. Ontario's power play.
If the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely.
How other premiers are potentially surging ahead. Plus, preparing to become the next prime minister.
We discussed the most important issues for our country.
But he's just like Justin, and he's more of the same.
The potential timeline and the political comeback. Also, how a stalled ski lift loaded with passengers came crashing down in BC. And the hockey-inspired tactic flexing national pride. How a symbolic Canadian stance is hitting back against American tariffs.
Elbows up!
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. The uncertainty and impact of Donald Trump's tariffs sending the stock market spiraling today on both sides of the border as the reality of a Canada-U.S. trade war strengthened its grip. The market sell-off rattling investors and leaving many to wonder how much pain the president will accept for the economy. The Nasdaq tumbled 4%, its worst day in 3 years. The S&P 500 slid nearly 3% and the Dow lost 2% of its value. Here at home, the TSX dropped 1.5%, the lowest in 4 months. CTV's Judy Trin is in Ottawa tonight with the reasons why.
The rout began at the opening bell as U.S. stocks plunged by nearly 900 points after President Donald Trump refused to rule out a recession brought on by his economic policies.
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition because what we're doing is very big.
Trump's trade war against China, Mexico, and Canada have triggered retaliation. Ontario is targeting the American power grid.
If the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely.
For now, the province will add a 25% surcharge on electricity it sells to New York, Michigan, and Minnesota. The charges will impact 1.5 million U.S. homes and businesses and generate up to $400,000 a day, money Ontario will use to support its workers. Ontario is the first province to use energy to fight back. Quebec, Manitoba, and BC are also considering hydro surcharges.
We don't want to be caught without a tool to be able to cut off electricity or increase charges on electricity to the Americans.
Ford is also urging Alberta to put an export tax on the oil it sends south of the border.
When the Americans, and I know the Americans, all of a sudden their gas prices go up 90 to $1 a gallon, they will lose their minds.
On X, Alberta's premier called it an absurd and self-destructive idea and linked to this interview on CTV's Power Play.
There's no circumstance under which I would agree to another tax on Alberta that takes $40 billion out of Alberta. You can ask me as much as you like. The answer is no.
Trump is expected to make the next move in this trade war. On Wednesday, the president is expected to put 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum, jeopardizing an industry worth $40 billion a year in Canada. Heather.
Judy, thank you. For more, let's bring in McMaster economics professor Colin Mang. Colin, how much of this is a response to Trump's tariff policies and his reaction to the economy?
100% of this is based on Trump's tariff policies. This is a man who changes his mind every second day, and markets don't know what to expect. If his tariffs stay in all summer long, American families are looking at extra costs of $1,000 to $1,200 over the course of the year, and they can't afford that. They're going to be buying less, businesses are going to lose profit, and investors are spooked.
And what does that mean for the Canadian economy, especially after a day like today?
As the American economy starts to stumble, and with the latest jobs report from last week, we are seeing the American economy slow down. That's going to drag the Canadian economy down with it. And of course, the problems that our exporters are having because of the tariffs, that's even further bad news for Canada.
And what do you say to Canadians who are investing right now, again, after today's numbers?
If you're the kind of investor who gets jittery over market volatility, now might be a good time to take a look at bonds as an alternative option. If you're the kind of person who has a longer time horizon and you're willing to accept a bit more risk in the short term, hold on to the stocks that you have. As well, start saving up cash, because as long as the uncertainty continues, the market's going to continue to drop. And by the time we get into the spring or summer, you're going to see some good buying opportunities.
And Colin, how could this impact the Bank of Canada's rate announcement on Wednesday?
I think we're definitely going to see an interest rate cut on Wednesday morning. The Bank of Canada is going to send a clear message to Canadian families and Canadian businesses that they're here to support the Canadian economy through an uncertain time.
Colin, thank you so much for your insight this evening.
You're welcome.
A man who knows market turbulence well is now set to face Canada's economic uncertainty as the next Prime Minister. It's day one on the job for new Liberal leader Mark Carney, who is promising a seamless and quick transition after meeting with Justin Trudeau, though he has yet to say when he will formally take power and be sworn in. CTV's Mike Lecouture has the details.
A lot of wood to chop. Very much looking forward to meeting with the Prime Minister and getting going.
With a federal election expected sooner rather than later, the Prime Minister-designate is hitting the ground running, naming former Liberal MP Marco Mendicino as his Chief of Staff and meeting with a reinvigorated caucus.
I think Mr. Carney is what Canada needs as a whole.
There are people that have joined across the country explicitly who have told me, I've never voted Liberal before, but I'll be voting Liberal this election because of Mark Carney's leadership.
Carney won the leadership with nearly 86% of the vote, which MPs believe will translate into momentum for an eventual election.
I know that now that we have a new leader, people are going to be excited to run for us, so I don't have any worries about us finding excellent candidates for the upcoming election.
Just when Carney will call that election, he wouldn't say, but he did tell reporters he's moving swiftly on a seamless transition from the Trudeau government.
There is tremendous energy in the Liberal caucus. As you saw last evening, this is a united party with full of energy to serve Canadians.
What riding Carney will run in remains unclear, but the former MP for Toronto Centre says the reason for her resignation is personal and purely coincidental.
Many, when I made my statement on Friday, said, "Oh, what's going on here? Did you get pushed out?" That's not the case. That decision was mine.
Justin Trudeau and Carney were not seen together at all today in what could be the Prime Minister's last day on Parliament Hill. But the Conservatives continue to try and paint the two leaders with the same red brush.
The Liberal establishment has installed Justin Trudeau's economic advisor as the next Liberal leader to trick Canadians into giving Liberals a fourth term in power.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh also took aim at the new Liberal leader.
That is his plan for the economic uncertainty of Donald Trump, for the threats of Donald Trump, is to give money to millionaires, to cut jobs, and to cut health care.
It's unclear when Carney will be sworn in as Prime Minister, but his first challenge will be the ongoing trade war with the U.S. Heather?
Mike, thanks. In response to that trade dispute, British Columbia has now removed all American liquor from store shelves.
The president's so interested in Canadian water, then we're going to help him out by letting him keep his watery beer.
While announcing new measures, Premier David Eby referenced reports that the U.S. president wants to revisit sharing of lakes. Today, BC expanded the ban beyond alcohol from the so-called red states that voted for Trump. All Canadian provinces have pulled American liquor from stores. Canadians could be in for sticker shock in the supermarket. The country's largest grocer, Loblaw, says it will be transparent with consumers about products caught in the crosshairs of the trade war. CTV's Kathy Lee has more on the rollout and reaction.
Grocery shopping trips have turned into missions. Many Canadians determined more than ever to find something local.
I'll always do Canadian if I can. If you can't find the product, that's different. Other than that, no, 100%.
Shoppers at all Loblaw stores will soon find a clue in their hunt. The company says a symbol with a T will mark products that have a tariff on it.
Due to Trump's tariffs, the Canadian government slapped retaliatory ones on roughly $30 billion worth of goods. and some of the cost will be passed on to consumers.
In a LinkedIn post, the company's CEO and president says the T symbols will help customers make informed choices. And since it still has U.S. inventory in its distribution centers pre-tariffs, the price won't increase immediately.
Loblaws has been in the news a lot over the last couple of years, accused of profiteering and taking advantage of these cost of living changes. So I don't see this as anything more than just indicating when you see the price go up, you know who to blame, and it's not us.
I think it's good. I think that that's wise. I think that it allows Canadians to understand what they're buying and to have options to be able to purchase something else.
Loblaw says it's working to expand non-U.S. options. As for Canadian options, one expert says the patriotic desire to support domestic products may not last.
Now that we're choosing to register our protest with the Americans by buying Canadian, it means that we've now chosen to take on a higher priced, lower quality product. And that can only last a couple of credit card cycles before you realize I can't afford this.
It's not going to be sustainable in the long term. In the short term, it's just the best we can do right now.
For now, a dedicated effort, some say, to support the country during uncertain times. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
At a time when many Canadians are cancelling trips south of the border, Alberta's premier is facing criticism for her plans to visit Florida to share the stage with a controversial political commentator. Danielle Smith is slated to meet Conservative podcast host Ben Shapiro at a fundraiser later this month. Shapiro has referred to Canada as the 51st state and has been openly hostile towards marginalized communities. Smith's party is defending the travel, calling it a chance to advocate for Alberta and Canada. A British Columbia ski resort is closed after a gondola fell off its line and crashed to the ground. Kicking Horse Mountain Resort in Golden, BC, about 275 kilometers west of Calgary, says the incident happened this morning near the base of the lift. The resort says its ski patrol team and first responders attended the scene. The maintenance team worked to unload passengers. A full inspection will try to determine the cause. The search has been called off for a missing crew member after a collision between a cargo ship and an oil tanker off the coast of England. The Portuguese-flagged cargo ship carrying the toxic chemical sodium cyanide was sailing to Rotterdam when it struck the side of the American-flagged tanker carrying jet fuel, some of which is spilling into the North Sea. The hunt continues for 3 masked gunmen who recklessly opened fire in a Toronto pub on Friday. Somehow no one was killed. While police are still searching for suspects, they may have a lead on a motive. CTV's Allison Hurst explains.
The police tape is down, but inside Piper Arms, clear signs of a violent attack.
It's like out of a movie. It's like gangland, gang style.
Bullet holes pierced through a back door, a TV above the bar, and an interior window.
It's very disheartening that we have individuals out in our community who are willing to take these types of action.
Police say 3 masked men barged in around 10:40 Friday night carrying an assault rifle and handguns and began shooting indiscriminately.
It's very concerning that, you can be anywhere and, in this case, enjoying a dinner or a drink.
7 people were struck by bullets in the arms and legs, and 5 others were injured by flying glass. Miraculously, no one died or suffered life-threatening injuries.
Well, I used to go to the old Scott house that it used to be, and ever since then it's been all kinds of different places.
Friday night was the Piper Arms grand opening next to Scarborough Town Centre.
There were a lot of delays with the opening, so I'm curious as to if this was planned.
The motive remains unconfirmed, but the shooting follows a week of gun violence linked to the towing industry. Police would not confirm a connection, but say they're looking into it.
Very scary. It's a place we plan to visit and most likely won't after this, so it's sad to hear it in our neighborhood.
Investigators have warned there will be an increased police presence in the area while they look for the suspects. Allison Hurst, CTV News, Toronto.
The top prosecutor in Los Angeles has reversed a request that could have seen the Menendez brothers get parole in the murder of their parents.
The Menendezes have basically engaged in not just the ultimate lie of self-defense, but a whole series of lies around it.
Nathan Hochman has withdrawn the recommendation for resentencing that was made by his predecessor. Eric and Lyle Menendez are serving life without the possibility of parole for killing their parents at the family's home in 1989. The brothers have also submitted a clemency plea to the governor. Coming up, what's next for Hudson's Bay?
I think it's too bad to see a place so iconic that's disappearing.
What does it mean for your gift cards and loyalty points? Plus, why a top NHL defenseman was just suspended at a critical time. Canada's oldest company could be on its last legs. Hudson's Bay has filed for creditor protection to avoid bankruptcy. And if you have any unused Bay gift cards, you're being warned to get shopping before it's too late. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson has the story.
The Bay is the place for a very special gift at Christmas. Fragrances, just look at the selection.
There was a time when the Bay was a big deal. Experts say those days are long gone.
Physical retail's not dead. This particular format is archaic and you're seeing it die.
Hudson's Bay is blaming industry-wide pressures for a dire financial situation that led it to file for creditor protection. The company points to post-pandemic shifts leading to less store traffic, strained Canadian household budgets, and the uncertainty with the U.S. But analysts believe the Bay's decline has its roots in the 1990s.
Like a sick person that is older and they're not doing well, it might have been the neglect of their body that built up over decades where they weren't eating right and drinking too much. And
customers have changed their behavior. They don't go shopping in large department stores anymore, full stop.
Those who are still shopping at the Bay have dealt with sudden store closures and ongoing maintenance issues.
I think it's too bad to see a place so iconic that's disappearing.
Something else might also disappear, your Hudson's Bay rewards points. Court documents show the loyalty program has been frozen during restructuring. Gift cards are still being honored, but experts warn that may not last.
If you have gift cards, you're at risk. We saw when Nordstrom left that they gave a heads up and I think a very quick window. I can't remember now, but I feel like it was days.
Experts predict half of the chain's 80 Canadian stores could be closed. That would affect thousands of jobs as a Canadian icon now struggles to survive.
So what are you waiting for? Come on, Canada, meet you at the Bay.
Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
The parent company of 7-Eleven appears to be more open to a possible sale to Quebec rival Couche-Tard. The two sides appear to be working on a plan that would satisfy U.S. antitrust regulators. Couche-Tard had put in an offer of $47 billion last year, which was rejected as being too low. A tough day for Elon Musk as Tesla shares plunged 15% and his social media platform X was attacked. Musk says there was a massive cyber attack on X done with a lot of resources. Tens of thousands of users reported outages. Musk later told Fox News that the attack may have originated from Ukraine. Still ahead tonight, what's behind the fury unleashed on parts of Florida? A powerful tornado ripped through central Florida this morning. Radar confirmed a tornado touched down just north of Orlando. A local news chopper captured the trail of destruction. Multiple homes were completely destroyed. The National Weather Service says it was an EF2 with peak winds of 185 kilometers per hour. Floodwaters are threatening parts of Australia after a tropical storm lashed the country's east coast. Emergency crews used inflatable boats to rescue stranded drivers on top of submerged cars. One person was killed and thousands have been displaced. At least 16 people have been killed and others are still missing after severe floodwaters ripped through Buenos Aires province in Argentina. More than a year's worth of rain fell in just 8 hours in some areas. Rescue teams are searching for survivors. And the Vatican says Pope Francis is no longer in imminent danger as he recovers from double pneumonia. The 88-year-old has been hospitalized since the middle of February and has been in stable condition now for more than a week. Florida Panthers defenseman Aaron Ekblad has been suspended 20 games without pay for violating the NHL's performance-enhancing drug policy. He will miss the remainder of the regular season. Ekblad said he regrets taking something that helped him recover from his recent injuries without first checking with proper medical and team personnel. Well, still ahead, elbows up.
Elbows up, we rise together.
The hockey term that's become a hit off the ice. We leave you tonight with a rallying cry for Canadians to stand on guard, elbows up. Threats against our country have sparked a new sense of national pride, and that phrase has gone viral. CTV's John Benavalli-Rao on the empowering message and the hockey player associated with it.
It's becoming hard to miss on social media a surge of videos urging Canadians to get those elbows up and take a symbolic stance against Donald Trump's threats. Folks spreading a message that's even become a political rallying cry.
But fight when we must, elbows up.
Because we will never kiss the gangster's ring.
My thanks to... In its current context, the slogan was first used by Canadian Mike Myers, who just over a week ago on SNL wore a Canada is not for sale t-shirt and mouthed elbows up during the credits, something he did again this past weekend. In Ottawa on Sunday, hundreds gathered for an elbows up rally. And protesters shouted it at an event last week outside the U.S. consulate.
Absolutely, 100%. Elbows up.
As for what it means, it's often associated with Canadian hockey legend Gordie Howe, known not only as Mr. Hockey, but also Mr. Elbows, a player who took no guff from his opponents.
If he saw somebody skating towards him to deliver a body check, all of a sudden the elbows came up and the hitter became the hittee and thought twice about going after number 9, Gordie Howe, from that point forward.
And now, elbows up, shorthand for standing our ground against U.S. tariffs. There are hats and shirts for sale with the slogan, and Nova Scotia's Peace by Chocolate has a chocolate bar that's a bestseller.
We are very surprised at the reception.
Canadians flexing our national pride and showing we're not about to back down. John Benavalli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
All right, elbows up. That is our newscast for this Monday night. I'm Heather Butts for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.
Canada's #1 newscast for excellence in journalism.
We begin tonight with breaking news.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina, winner of the Canadian Screen Award for Best National Newscast. Watch weeknights at 11.